Meteorological winter began yesterday on December 1st, although the shortest day of the year doesn't come until nearly Christmas. Much of Western Europe and the United Kingdom are now facing sporadic and unpredictable energy shortages. Let's talk about what that might mean for travelers and how we can prepare. Hello and welcome back to the Armchair Traveler. My name is Judy. I love to travel. I do this on my own, and so can you. I'm here to teach you how. The world is eventually going to run out of fossil fuels, and they have far more important uses than just going up in smoke to create electricity. The big plan is to move to cleaner energy by replacing things like coal, crude oil, and nuclear with cleaner, safer energy renewables like solar, wind, and hydroelectric. Doing this is going to take a while, and none of them would be enough by themselves, so everyone needed a supplemental source and a backup plan. That was to use natural gas. It might not be as clean as wind or solar, but natural gas is the cleanest of the fossil fuels. The problem is none of these countries produce enough to meet their own needs, even in the short run. So the big plan was to import natural gas from Russia. The UK does produce some natural gas in Scotland, but still imports the majority of the gas it uses. In France, 3/4 of the electricity comes from nuclear plants, but the government has been under immense pressure to shutter them. Germany is quite a bit more diversified, but it still imports 97% of the natural gas it uses. That leaves these countries with a huge problem: not enough of the raw material to go around, skyrocketing costs, and limited options. A lot of money and hoopla were spent on a big natural gas pipeline built from Russia to Germany. It was a good idea, but the politicians forgot. Situations can change overnight. Russia invaded Ukraine. The West, writ large, responded with economic sanctions. Russia's response to the sanctions was to turn off the spigot on the theory they could freeze the UK and Western Europe into accepting their invasion. If you want the dirty deets on this one, check my WordPress blog for a deep dive. I'll put the link in the description. Our job today is to figure out how to deal with this problem if it comes up. It's not as hard as it might seem once you break it down into small sections. I can't predict how any of this is going to develop, and neither can you. Even so, we can still take some common sense steps to get ready. Pay attention to what's happening now. Ignore the wild tales and the conspiracy theories. They're just designed to separate you somehow from your hard-earned money. It is still a safe bet to assume you might meet up an occasional power outage. Be aware of how the situation could change. What a government or power authority says today, when the temperatures in London, for example, are still in the 50s, might be very different in January when it's in the 30s. Once you're aware of what's going on, you can take steps to deal with possible problems. Those of us who've lived in the colder parts of the United States can easily see three possible problems. The first is, how do I stay warm if the power goes out? Second, how do I continue to be able to see in the dark and keep my rechargeables powered up? The third is, what do I do about money when the ATMs are dead, and how can I feed myself when all the stores are closed? People managed to stay warm and comfortable long before there was central heating. We relied on layers of clothing and dinky fires, so we can do this now if we have to. You're not going to run out and buy a propane heater and drag it into a cold hotel room. The trick to staying warm is to use layers. Start with a wool hat, gloves, and a scarf. This is really easy. Unless you're headed to the Caribbean, you're already dressing for winter. My only suggestion is to consider wool instead of synthetics. This picture of long underwear may be an antique, but the idea certainly isn't obsolete. Wool, silk, and synthetics are common in long underwear. Each one has good points and defects, but any of them will do a fine job. Wool might be the most efficient, but it's going to get scratchy and can be a nuisance to wash. Silk is hypoallergenic and much easier to wash by hand, but it can be pricey. Synthetics might not be quite as warm as the other two, and if you wear them for days on end, they can pick up quite a bad smell, but you're likely not going to have to wear them for an extended period of time. They often have the edge price-wise. A wool sweater can be your best friend. Cashmere might be lighter in weight and warmer, but pay attention. In the last few years, I've noticed that cashmere has gotten really thin when I try to buy it. If it's that thin, it's not going to do the job. A cardigan or crew neck sweater probably has the edge over a boat neck. A small flashlight can be your best friend even when the power stays on if you don't relish stumbling around in the dark when you first wake up in the middle of the night. If you're planning on going out after dark, tuck one into your coat pocket. When you get home, just leave it on the nightstand. Most people have learned the hard way that a cell phone can die at the most annoying moment, so almost everyone already has a portable charger, but if you don't, I recommend getting one. These chargers are far more sophisticated than they were years ago, and most are dual voltage, so you can plug them in pretty much anywhere, provided you have the right kind of plug. If you have an older model, you might want to check on that. Some of the old ones only took 120 volts, and if you plug them into any outlet in Europe, you're going to fry them. Just ask at the electronics store what kind is best for your device. Make sure you have the right kind of wires as well. All this planning won't do you any good if your backup supplies don't work. Keep a spare set of regular batteries for your flashlight on hand. Ordinary consumer batteries in Europe are the same size as they are here, although the names are probably different. All you really have to do is take your flashlight to any store and point to the batteries. You already know your devices won't work without power, so make sure you keep everything powered up, including that charger. Congratulations, because you've actually worked your way through the really hard stuff. I have two more optional suggestions for you. You might want to consider keeping a bit more cash on hand than usual. Debit cards are great, and I use mine all the time, but they're not going to work if the power is out. ATMs and banks stop working when the power is out, which means you can't get cash under those circumstances. You got to plan ahead. Finally, consider having a small stash of food. Anything tasty that you can eat cold, for instance a protein bar, is a good idea, just in case the restaurants are all closed. Chocolate bars might not be the most nutritionally sound choice, but chocolate tastes good cold, is easy to find, and it's cheap. Congratulations, you're ready to travel. Situational awareness and a little bit of advanced planning is going to keep you comfortable and safe, even when the unexpected happens or the power goes out. Remember, we really don't know what's going to happen first, or even if anything bad will happen. We just need to be a little more prepared than we used to. Have a wonderful trip. Thank you for walking with me today and visiting the Armchair Traveler. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to dig deeper, some of my video blogs have more information on my WordPress site. The address is armchairtraveler2022.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, where my handle is @armchair2022.